All right, welcome to the podcast. We don't really have a name for it yet. I think that's just organically going to come. Right now, the main focus is just getting the content going and sharing with you guys what we got going on.
Yeah, giving some insight into your life and what you've been up to, after Worlds and leading up through that, your preparation for the Olympics.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is a lot of times it's just consistency, right? Rather than spend all the time giving a name for it right now, just get you guys content. Get you guys the information. We'll figure it out as we go. That's what you care about more than anything else anyways. Today's episode is brought to you by LiveTrain.com. LiveTrain.com is a learn anything, anytime, anywhere online training platform. One-on-one training sessions, virtual lessons, podcasts, docuseries, and more. One-stop shop, LiveTrain.com and MyBookie.ag. None of this would be possible without my man here, Cameramandan, the man behind the camera.
Thank you, Dave.
I think it's be really cool. Danny and I, just an organic fit because we're together all the time. Right? Danny shoots all my content, all the stuff you see on Instagram. Our new YouTube channel, right? Like and subscribe, Magicman PSU. Danny's doing all of that, right? It takes a lot of time and energy for this to happen, but I can now produce a lot more content, get it out to you guys on real time. So I thought it'd be really cool that we could just do this.
Giving some life updates on Dave and his transition into living on a farm, getting some cows, getting some land. Big change up, but just documenting the whole process. This week, made a YouTube video about the Scottish Highland cows. And then today at 1 p.m., we're getting some goats.
Yeah.
So some baby goats. We're going to be bottle feeding some goats and just adding some more animals to the family here. So,
yeah, it's been kind of crazy. I think one of the things we want to do here is kind of have a couple different segments that we're going to talk about here consistently. One of the first ones really is just road to Paris. That's where we're at. That's kind of my life has always revolved around the Olympics, and preparation into Tokyo in 2020, 2021, but really 2020 was a huge benchmark for me because that was my whole life revolved around that. Until that point in my life, pretty much every decision I ever made was, is this going to help me win the Olympics or not? Which is kind of a weird thing, right? And it's not a pressure thing. It was just like, that's just how my mind worked. Since the Olympics, obviously there's been massive changes in my life. Like, it just, once you do something of that, everything else kind of is secondary, and I think now we're back into road to Paris. Like we're less than 1 year to the Olympics. And once you've been to the Olympics, like that's all you're thinking about. That's the next primary focus. And I think this is going to be way different. This time I think it'll be a lot more fun. That one was just like my life was pretty simple. I just trained and wrestled. And, like I said, like a lot of my life was revolving around that, where now it's got a lot of different irons in the fire.
Yeah.
And, I think Danny can help give unique perspective with me because he's doing it all with me, and I think that will kind of be a fun way to kind of give you guys deeper dive into what it's going to look like and on this journey together as I look to win a second gold medal in Paris.
Yeah. Traveling with Dave is always fun. always a good time. In Serbia, we rented scooters. We're going to the mall to buy shoes because he was getting blisters on his feet from these one shoes. They look like Crocs. They're hilarious.
They were cool Crocs.
They were cool.
Yeah.
I think they're cool, but he was getting some.
They're like a souped up Croc.
Yeah. Like
Cane footwear.
Cane footwear, yeah. So we rented these scooters, and we're going around Serbia, and Dave's figuring out the controls. And, I mean, you were, like, this close to getting hit by a car coming around a bend, and I thought it was over.
Yeah, no joke. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I almost got hit by a car. It's like...
No, like, the scooter slid out. I thought it was over. I was like, we just paid all this money, went all the way over to Serbia, across the world, just for David to get taken out by a car on a scooter.
So Danny, he's like an adrenaline junkie. He's scooting on a motorcycle going, he tells me about how he hit a raccoon one time going like 130 miles an hour, like nothing.
100.
100.
My bike's too slow for that. It's a 400.
Listen, when you get over like 60, well, those scooters are going about 20 and they felt pretty fast to me.
But we're not wearing a helmet or anything either,
This is no joke. This is 2 days before the World Championships. We're sitting around and had nothing really to do. I wanted to get a new pair of shoes. And the year before, I've been to Serbia last year for the World Championships in 2022. This year in 2023, went back to the exact same place, stayed in the same hotel. So routine's pretty set. You know what we're going to do. And I had been to the mall last year, Last year I was there after I finished because every year I've been the first weight class to wrestle, which is amazing because it's great. You're done and you just got to watch your rest of your teammates compete. My family came last year. My wife and my two daughters. Ivy was still really young. She had turned one at the World Championships last year. She turned two at the World Championships this year. Kind of give perspective. And my older daughter was two last year. She's three now. And our Airbnb last year with my family was far. It was like a 2 mile walk from where we stayed in our hotel. So afterwards, we're there and we're walking. We just get lost, right? We get lost trying to come back to the venue, and then we get hit in a torrential downpour. Like we're soaking wet. My mother-in-law has Ivy. Kendra and I are rotating back and forth with London carrying her. We're soaking wet, like completely soaked. This massive bus comes by and hits the puddle, and it's just like in the movie, just water. Just now we're completely drenched, like we just jumped into a pool. And so we had to go to this mall to get new clothes because we were drenched. It was before the finals of the last day of the competition. So that was my experience at the mall, and I kind of had a vague recollection of how to get there. So we're like, hey, let's rent these scooters and let's scoot there. It's not very far. So we're going. Well, there's multiple malls.
Well, I'm on GPS duty, and of course I put in the wrong one. So we're hiking, and we make it about halfway, 75% of the way. Our batteries on our scooters are like slowly dying. You thought we were gonna be done.
Done.
You thought we were gonna have to walk like a few miles back.
Yeah. We make it there, but inches away from getting smoked by this car.
Yeah.
Coming back around to it, like as we're coming around the corner, because getting this mall was not traditional roads. Like we're like bunny hopping over ways, going across highways. We're on this
it was like
dirt
a
path
4-lane highway
coming around, and this is definitely not a way this car should be coming. And I come around this corner, it's a blind corner, and as I'm coming around, this dude's coming, and he slams on his brake, and my scooter just like slides right out. And it was that close. That was that close to the World Championships, and maybe my life being over.
That was a life. That was like a life endangered type of moment. Like I was thinking even more so. Like he's not going to be able to compete, but like that guy was going really fast.
Yeah,
way too fast on that road.
Yeah, that was wild. But I got the shoes. So kind of road to Paris, right? So I think that's where we're at right now. The big one is just got back from the World Championships. 2023 World Championships was a great success. I think it's hard because no year's ever the same. It's like, man, what I did last year, I couldn't train the same way as I did this year because you got all these variables. I got a family, I got a wrestling club, we got a juice business downtown. Like you just have life that comes in the fact that plus you throw in everything else. You throw that I'm a year older. I got other interests, other things on my mind. It's just whatever it may be. So training for the World Championship this year was pretty difficult. And I kind of want to get into that a little bit about what my plan is this year to do different than last year, which I think will make a big difference for me, obviously as I get ready for the Olympic trials. But ultimately, was able to really pull it together for the World Championships and had a great performance. And I as I look back on it, I think, at this point in my career, it's a lot of experience. I've been competing at the highest level for a really long time. So I know that no matter how I feel, when I step on the mat, I'm going to perform and perform at my very best. And I believe I'm a better competitor than anyone I compete against. And that's one thing that I do truly feel. And just like anyone else, like you're going to get frustrated because you don't feel like you felt last year. You don't feel like you did the week before. But when you get close, and this is something that, I've experienced with Coach Casey Cunningham, who's been with me years and years and years. And we talk about it all the time. He's like, dude, you just have to get there and be focused. And a lot of that was just, when he tells me to be focused, it means like, man, you got a lot of irons in the fire at home. When you get to training camp, get acclimation camp, and you get 5 days or 6 days or 7 days, just focus on wrestling, it's going to be a big game changer. And that's really, it's really what it's been, like, I'd say for the Olympics, like everything was perfect preparation. It was like perfect preparation. Everything in my life was so fine-tuned and dialed that it's taking me some adjustment to realize, like, okay, what's going to be different now? And it's not realistic that it's going to be so fine-tuned and dialed every single day because it's just not possible for me anymore. But I've just in a short period of time, when I can focus like that, I can obviously get really, really good results. And this year was just another kind of one of those things. And once I got to the world championships, there was a level of just calmness, like I just know that I'll compete better than anyone else, and I think that just experience and that being a competitor just really kicks in. And I had a dominant world championships, I had a tech and pin in every single match.
Yeah. Getting a tech and pin in every single match at the World Championships. I mean, I really don't know who's going to give you a hard time at the Olympics, personally. Of
Well,
the people that you've already wrestled,
I think that's like, there's nothing easy, nothing given, right? Even though, as this year, like, the big match is myself and Hassan Yazdanni, right? It's been the match. We wrestled 6 times, and he's beat me 1 time, beaten him 5 times, but it's every match is tough, right? And even in these matches, like, he's the reason I'm getting up and I'm training because he's the guy I have to beat. But although the score is reflective of that, there's so many little battles, right? And in every one of our matches, like, if I just chose to just not be focused or I chose to just give up something, the match is different.
yeah.
And I think that's where separates me when we talk about us being a competitor. And it's just, I'm not willing to give up anything easy. Nothing easy.
Yeah.
And those add up. Those add up every single day in practice and every single day in competition. And it's something I tell my kids at M2 Training Center all the time. And I speak to them from experience. Like, you just can't give up anything easy. No easy scores. If people are gonna score at you, whether it's at the highest level or the first day wrestling or anything in between. When you're battling, people are gonna score on you. But just it can't be easy because easy comes with confidence.
Yeah.
If someone feels like it gets something easy, oh, I can get this and I can get this again. I can get this again. And I think that's been the biggest separator between he and I. No, obviously I think I believe that I think that I have a better gas tank, and I think that makes a huge difference in the second period. It has in every one of our matches. But, this year, this is the second time that we've wrestled where he's laid down and quit on his back.
Yeah.
The very first time that was the case, and this time, and something I'm going to think about, right? I'm going to remember that, as we go in the next Olympics, and so is he, right? It's going to be something he's going to think about every single day. And I believe the best version of Yazdanni that I wrestled was in the 2020 Olympic finals. That was the best version that I wrestled of him. The 2021 World Championships, I wouldn't say that was his best version of him, but it was by far the worst version of me. I just wasn't motivated. I had a lot of things that were going on, and I had a hard time. When we're talking about easy points, I gave him up there. I kind of gave up some easy scores and stuff, and I think it made a difference. You could see he got confident as we did those things. And even as bad as I wrestled in that match, I slipped on a takedown. If I score that takedown, the match is so different. Which it is what it is. It is what it is. I can look back and I can't honestly say, like, man, all the things I just talked about being a competitor, I can't say I went into that match with that same focus and intensity, and he brought it. So long story short, I expect to see the best version next year of him. And that's really where we're at. That's the kind of recap of the World Championships is, it ended really good. It was hard to get there. And this year, moving forward, last year I jumped right back into training. I didn't really take much time off at all. I remember kind of jumping back in the room instantly because I was excited. I felt good. And anytime when you win, you feel great. You're in the peak shape, peak conditioning. You're like, man, this is great. I'll keep doing this. But then you hit a wall. And last year I jumped in there and I was wrestling and not training, there's a difference between wrestling and training. Wrestling's when you're in there and you're just kind of flowing and stuff. Training's when it's like every takedown matters, every time, your timeliness, your training, all the little details. It took me a really long time, and it was really hard for me to make that switch from just going in there and wrestling to training.
I've never seen anyone juggle more, businesses and hobbies and career paths as you. So I feel like you're always looking for something to put that mental energy into, and then to motivate you to train and to like have that fire to compete.
Yes, and I think I'm easily motivated. I'm easily motivated. Always have been. And it's fun when you're doing something new and exciting. It's when you're doing the same thing. Like wrestling has been the same thing for me for so long.
Yeah.
And so it is. It's harder to put that same energy into it that I've always been able to do because I've been putting that energy in wrestling since I was 5. You know, I'm going to be 33 in 2 months, you know, so it's kind of crazy. And that those years I've been at the highest. I was winning at the highest level at 8, you know. So it's like it's a challenging thing to have that same excitement and energy. So I don't know if I'm always looking for the new thing. I think there's an element of that, but I think it's something that's new to put my time and energy into because I do think it helps me with wrestling. It helps me when I'm like, man, I just honestly can't put that same time and energy into wrestling like I always could.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, if I put things into somewhere else, then I feel like I have to put it back into wrestling. Because if I don't, I don't feel as good. You know, so it's okay. Well, I'll get some. You know, I'll kind of diversify in these different things, and also knowing that I'm getting towards the tail end of my career. You know, you want to set yourself up. So I don't want to work forever. You know, and I've been fortunate that I've been able to do well. That you know, when the day comes, I don't want to wrestle anymore. I want to have the choice to do other things. So I think there's a kind of playing those things. You're like, okay, well, how long am I going to wrestle for? We'll see. Competing is still a really high level, you know. But also like when the day comes, like what's next? So I'm always kind of balancing that. And I think by always kind of thinking about like kind of what's next, it helps me keep the hunger for what's now. And although it's a little backwards and maybe not quite the way you're supposed to do it, it's just I feel like something that is able to keep me wired in, um, and just always keeping things challenging.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's there's a lot that goes into it, but I do know that, like I said, I know in my mind it was just like okay, after Tokyo, I wasn't ready to be done. I was close a couple of times, you know. I think losing right after that gave me a reason to be like, okay, I'm not going out losing to this guy. Just I beat him. This wasn't the best version. Okay, Yazdanni beat me at my best version, and then we'll see. And I believe the last 2 years been close to my best versions, you know, and the gap is separated. So I think that was a good wake up call for me. And now this is exciting again. Every day now is like this is the Olympic year.
Yeah.
For me, there's a lot of exciting things that come with that. You know, being a returning Olympic gold medalist, you know, you're on the forefront. You have different opportunities that are presented to you that weren't presented before.
Is it any different knowing that you've already won, you already have that process? Do you think that it's going to be any different, any easier maybe?
Definitely not easier, you know, because like I mean, again, it's the Olympics. It's something that every single person is training for. You know, it's like I've been the benchmark for so long, and I still am. You know, even making the team here in the United States, like
It's insane.
it's tough. You know, and I have to wrestle one guy in a best 2 out of 3 format. That one guy is likely going to be here from Penn State, right? Because we have such a tough competitive room.
Yeah, half the world team.
Yeah, I mean, right this year we'd
State
have the world
college.
team. I think there is a really good opportunity that we get all 6 Olympians this year come from our club.
If NLWC was its own country, I think it would
We'd win.
it would still win.
NLWC, if we could enter NLWC into the World Championships, we could enter NLWC, our best 10-man world team from NLWC, we win the World Championships.
100%.
And if we can
every
put our
time.
best 6-man team in the Olympics, I think we'd right there winning the Olympics. You know,
I agree.
which is pretty sweet. People, you know, like, how do you still compete at this level when you don't wrestle very often? You're just wrestling the trials and world championships. I'm like, dude, every day for me is a world championship. Every practice for me is tougher than pretty much every match I wrestle the world championship.
That's crazy.
You know, so it's
That's
like
crazy
you're
to
just
think about.
constantly staying hungry. So I think it'll be fun this year. You know, obviously, kind of continue to document like what's it look like, where we're at moving forward, into Paris. But I took 4 weeks off. Today's my first day back into training, you know, and it's good. I'm excited to be back. Whereas last year I was like, man, I'm kind of like in there, and then what kind of talked about. So this year I'm gonna segment training cycles, kind of like what I did earlier in my career. You know, I would train for 6 weeks, I would compete, and then I would train for 6 weeks, I would compete. It was constantly a building phase.
Yeah.
Early in my international career. This year I'm gonna do something similar to that. Basically, you know, this year basically be like, all right, I'm gonna train and kind of have like that kind of culmination, whether it's match day or whatever it may be, take a week off, get back. So it's just like, and then I just know it's a gradual build to April Olympic trials, and it's a gradual build till the Olympic Games in August. And I think that's where the experience of doing it before,
Yeah.
it takes some of the
Process.
pressure off that way because you don't have the unknown of what it's going to be like when you're there.
Yeah, the feeling of competing there and
Yeah.
front of all those people.
I
Yeah.
think that's what it is. And it's just staying hungry and focused. I think hungry and focused, I'm going to be an Olympic champion this year again, but it's easy to get unfocused. It's easy to lose your hunger. And that's the battle of where I am right now. And hungry and focused for, what are we at? We're in October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, 10 months of hungry and focused, and um, that's where we're at. This is the first week of 10 months of hungry and focused. So I got a good team that'll help me with that. But wrestling's one of the things where it's just you that makes the choices. No one else makes them for you. It's just me that makes the choices, and those are choices I'm gonna have to make. But yeah, so it's exciting. It's an exciting situation to be in, and looking forward to continuing this next chapter.
Paris.
Let's go.
2024. There'll be a YouTube video out of David's transitioning back into training and just kind of getting back into that schedule and what that looks like. So make sure you're following along.
So the next segment that we want to talk about is just like combat sports and where we're at. And I think when I think about it, it's obviously very vague, but wrestling is something that I'm involved at every single level. So I have my wrestling club here at M2 Training Center, one of the premier wrestling clubs in the country. The day I got home from the World Championships, actually, I got home. I turned around the next day, went out to Chicago with my club to the P&L, Premier National League. It's a new organization that we started. We started with 8 clubs. This year to 18 clubs. We had the fall nationals, where basically it's a unique situation where clubs get to enter, their entire roster. They go and they compete. Every single kid is allowed to get 5 matches, or at least 5 matches, so make it worth their trip. Getting away from the dual meet format, and just a way that we can round table, as coaches, with the kids, where we're still competing at a high level, but we're trying to like continue to improve, and I think it's a really cool event. So obviously involved in elementary, middle school, and high school wrestling, collegiate wrestling, obviously very close with, and then also like what's going on in MMA, and what's going on in boxing. It's an interest that I have for sure, and we'll kind of like stay in tune with what those things look like. So right now, this weekend is Super 32. It's the premier, right now, it's the premier tournament in the country, really, of all ages, elementary, middle school, high school. I wrestled in that tournament twice when I was in high school, and it was big then. It was like, man, if you don't submit your entry right away, it's sold out. It's evolved now where you got to like pre-register. The lottery tickets are hard to get, and there's no exceptions. Last year, Tyler Kasak was number 1 in the country from my club and didn't enter on time. They wouldn't let him in. It's like, and they're pretty strict with that kind of stuff, and I think it's one of those tournaments where it's a career changer. Kid goes in there and they do well. They beat some ranked guys. Like it changes their trajectory of where they're going to school. And you win that tournament, you're on the radar of every single guy, every single, college coach in America. So it's tough. Elementary, middle school, not as deep, but really, really high quality, probably like 32, 60-man brackets, 64-man brackets, but like really quality kids. High school is huge, 256-man brackets. You kind of get a mixed bag, but what I realized last year going there is in high school, to get out of day one is basically tougher than any tournament, any high school tournament you're going to wrestle during the year, including any high school state tournament. It's probably tougher than pretty much every high school state tournament. To be a state champion, to get out of that first day, that's like the quality of what it is. Day 2 is the toughest national tournament in the country, which is basically what it is. So day 1, that means you're like round of 12. So you're in the All-American round the next day, or you're in, like, I think the quarterfinals or round before that. And then it's like every single match after that is nationally ranked, high caliber, national final or national finalist type match. Boom, 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 boom. So it's a brutal tournament. We got a handful of guys going down there at all ages. We kind of approach it as, it's not a tournament you go to for experience. You go there with the intent to win, because it takes a lot of time and energy to travel down there, and it's that tough. So we got a good group going down. I'm excited to see where we're at. Our high school kids, we use P&L as kind of our first, tournament to like get matches, and work, see where you're at with your weight. And then Super 32 is like the premier tournament, and then their high school season. So, unfortunately, the way our club is right now, unfortunately, we have a lot of guys the same weight classes, so they're all gonna have to wrestle each other a lot, this year. But it's fortunate because these dudes have been battling every day for 7 years, and that's why they're all so good. And so we could see some head-to-head matches from our own club there. I hope that doesn't. I hope that happens because we're doing so well. I hope that doesn't happen early in the tournament, where it's an eliminator match. That would be unfortunate, but it's a good indication of where the kids are at and where the club's at right now. And I believe we have a good opportunity to do pretty well. So should be fun. Be fun this weekend to go do that.
Yeah. The first shoot that I did for you was in Chicago, P&L last year.
Yeah.
And I remember getting there and seeing Daniel Cormier and his team, Ben Askren and his team, and Izzy Style, all those guys. Like, it was crazy. The first time for me seeing M2 compete. And I remember just sitting there. I mean, that was one of the longest days that I ever had to shoot, and it was just brutal. I mean, they wrestle once, get off the mat, take a sip of water, go right back out, wrestle again. I mean, these M2 boys and really everyone at that tournament, it were tough. I mean, that was one of the craziest tournaments that I've ever watched. It was so entertaining, so fun.
Well, if you think about the idea is you take 8 of the best clubs in the country, you take all their best kids, you put them in brackets, and they're going to wrestle each other. So it's good quality. It's worth the travel.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, and it's you get fair. You get parity, right? So it's like, man, the best kids are wrestling the best kids, the middle road kids wrestling the middle road kids, and the lower end guys or guys that need experience are wrestling each other. So it works itself out, and it was pretty cool. I remember telling you, like, dude, you better pace yourself. It's gonna be a long day, and you just crank through. You crank through so much stuff.
I was blowing
Basically,
through cards.
The point we almost couldn't even get any content because we had so much content. It was like couldn't even go back.
And
I
threw together that one edit, like
hard.
from it. That was like the first thing I think that I really did for you. But I was on a mission.
Yeah, it was good.
You paid for my flight out there. You were looking out for me. I was trying to do the same. So, but that was funny. That was like the beginning of my career as well.
We got Makhachev, Volkanovski 2. We got Usman and Chimaev. Actually, really excited about that fight. We got Ankalaev making his comeback since his draw or whatever you call it with Blachowicz. It was one of the worst fights I've ever seen. And Johnny Walker, who's been really hot lately. We got Alaskarov and Alves from Brazil. Said whatever the
Nurmagomedov.
The Russian guy has probably got a really good grappling takedown. He's going to just
bet on him.
Yeah, bet on that guy.
Bet on that guy.
And Gufarov from Tajikistan. That's what we got. So my picks for this weekend are going with Said. I like Alaskarov. He's pretty dang good. Actually, Alaskarov had a really good fight with Chimaev kind of like way back when, before Chimaev got big, before he was in the UFC. They had a really close fight. Chimaev, I think, ended up getting the knockout late in the fight, but it was close. I mean, the guy really matched his grappling, and it was good. And he's been pretty hot so far. He's ranked number 11 at middleweight right now. He's been coming up the ranks. And I mean, middleweight right now is it's kind of crazy, with just the turnover, with Izzy kind of doing whatever he's doing. Obviously Bo is super hot right now. We got a lot of like upcoming fights, and these fights right here are kind of like gonna set the tone for, I think, who's gonna be fighting Strickland here soon.
Yeah, that Strickland fight, that was wild. I didn't know what was gonna happen. I know Strickland. I know he's a dog. Like, I know he just comes to fight, but I was not expecting him to win.
So what I thought in that fight was it just looked like Izzy. It's something that when you've been successful for a really long time, we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. You get something that's called like champions fatigue. Yeah. It's like, where's your fire? Where's your motivation? I think I saw he's fought 11 times. He's had 11 title shots, 11 title defenses or title fights in like a pretty short period of time. So he's obviously super active, which is cool. It's cool that he's that active, obviously. But I think for him, just coming, like, Pereira was like that mountain that he could never climb, Like, he's always beaten him. He lost to him. Then he had that just epic knockout, right?
Yeah.
And for him, that's like a life's complete moment.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, now what? I had this guy that it's always been in the back of my mind. I've always been training for. Now I got all these up and coming guys. He's cleaned out the division, beat everybody.
That's true. It's hard to find motivation after completing a goal like that. I mean, it's like McGregor. It's hard to wake up and train when you're waking up in silk pajamas.
Yeah.
You know?
He's got everything. He's got all the money in the world that he probably ever thought. He's accomplished everything. And then you got Strickland, who's got nothing, you know, and he's just like first title fight, almost like no one gave him a chance, you know? And it was interesting because I saw something that he said his whole training camp was grappling, you know, because Izzy's grappling isn't very good. Well, actually, you know, he's just striking is what he does. So I definitely expected, although Strickland's not a grappler, I expected him to element of some grappling. But his nature is just, I'm going to pressure you, walk you down, and I'm going to be tough.
Oh, yeah. He's a stand and bang guy. He just stands and throws.
And that's what he does. And I think
iron chin.
What it looked like his plan was probably thinking, I'm going to grapple. But as a competitor, sometimes when you're there, you just get a sense like, this is going to work. Yeah. And it looked like, man, I'm just going to back Izzy down. And Izzy's always been really good off his back foot. You know, always been, you know, kind of backing up and using his length and setting up his kicks. But it was Strickland had zero fear of it. Something happened early in the fight, and I think he talked about it earlier. He's like, this guy's got nothing for me. Yeah. So for 5 rounds, he walked the best striker we maybe ever seen in MMA. Strickland walked him down for 5 straight rounds.
Yeah.
And
it's just crazy. Sean Strickland, I mean, you have to respect him. He just keeps walking forward, no matter what you throw at him. It's like Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
It's like you just run out of rounds with Nate Diaz. You always wonder, like, if there were more rounds, you know, yeah, sure, it might have looked like he was getting beat at one point, but he never truly gets beat, in my opinion. Like, he's the fan favorite walking out. You know, maybe he wins, maybe he loses. It doesn't matter. It's Nate Diaz. Like, he puts on the best performances, the best shows, you know, similar to Strickland, where it's like, if you just keep coming like that, you're a fan favorite. Like, everyone loves you. Everyone wants to watch you, no matter what.
I think props to Izzy for fighting as much as he's been fighting, you know, and fighting big fights, title fights. Like you put him up there,
unreal.
He's been taking them out. But then Strickland, I mean, that dude will fight anybody anytime. He fights at 205, fights at 185, he fights short notice, he fights 3 rounds, 5 rounds. He just steps in. And he's just been cleaning out all the upcoming guys at 185. He's just been taking them out. So, I mean, that was a huge step up for him, you know, the way the division fell, that he was the next in line, and what an opportunity for him to take him out. But now, 185 middleweight, completely wide open.
Yeah.
I mean, now it's like, okay, completely wide open. So, you know, his Alaskarov guy, I mean, he's close, right? I think he's probably 1 or 2 fights away. You know, we'll see how he performed this weekend. Ankalaev and Johnny Walker, that's an interesting fight. Ankalaev, I mean, again, another Russian guy, pretty dang good, but, you know, he had that really boring fight with Blachowicz. And I was there for that fight. And it had a lot of hype. You know, he had a lot of hype, and then he got hurt. You know, it was a draw, obviously. And this is his first fight back, and Johnny Walker has been a real up and down fighter.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, he got hot, then he got cold, and now he's hot again. You know, he's on the come up.
I feel like the fans, UFC, they're cutthroat.
Oh, yeah.
If you lose one time, it's like done. Credibility lost. Like, they don't care at all. You better win every fight, and you better do it in great fashion, or people are just going to come at you.
It's actually crazy because in MMA, like, they don't even respect people that win.
Now, if you don't win how they want you to win, that's why so many people are in this concept of no jiu-jitsu, no grappling. You know, they start watching Khabib, and yeah, he's winning dominantly, but to some people, some casual fans, it's boring. You know what I mean? And to me, that blows my mind. Coming from a grappling background, I would much rather watch Oliveira finish someone via rear naked choke than watch another, you know, knockout, which is fun to see both. But personally, I like the aspect of grappling just because I come from a grappling background. I'm sure it would be different if I grew up with a striking background, but just me personally.
Which I think one thing that's gonna be cool about this, you know, our dynamic is, so Danny wrestled, but really, you know, you're a jiu-jitsu guy.
I was not good at wrestling.
Yeah, but you wrestle.
I was not. I wrestled from 4th grade to sophomore year of high school, and then I transitioned into jiu-jitsu. I am testing for my purple belt.
Show the tattoo.
Next month, yeah.
There you go, jiu-jitsu.
I'm obsessed with it. I love competing in it. It clicked more with me. I like it a lot better than wrestling. Sorry, Dave.
No. Well, I think there's a reason. There's a reason why you can only wrestle for so long, and why jiu-jitsu is so big is because it's you can do it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You know,
jiu-jitsu is one of those things where it's like, I just think it's great for everyone to know at least a little bit of it, just for self-defense purposes. And I encourage everyone I meet to, you know, make it a hobby. because it is sustainable. It's something that, women, men, children, literally anybody can do, and be fairly good at it, because it's not a very athletic. There's a lot of moves at the highest level, yes, that require a lot of athleticism. I mean, some of the best athletes from all types of combat sports come into jiu-jitsu, and they're amazing, right? But your hobbyist, jiu-jitsu practitioner can be really good just with technique and an understanding of the fundamentals of jiu-jitsu. And I feel like that's why it's so much fun, because for me, it was like, I can kind of slow it down and I can think a little bit more in this game, and it feels more fun for me in that sense, to slow it down. Whereas in wrestling, if you're not moving your feet, you're losing, and there's no time to think in those matches. It's like all just instinctive.
Well, it's kind of crazy the way the MMA world is now. I mean, it's all striking.
All striking. Yeah.
I mean, there aren't really any like jujitsu purists anymore in MMA, because it's hard to get hot and get the credibility and excitement when if you're trying like just be a jujitsu guy. If you're up against guys that are getting knockouts,
Yeah.
I just feel like you're not going to get up the ranks as fast. It's going to take a long time.
Well, you're going to have to do, you're obviously going to have to do striking, and you're going to have to get really good at that. Surprise visitor.
What's up, princess?
Come over here.
Want a quick kiss? All right, buddy. All right, so get back kind of on track. So we got Ankalaev and Johnny Walker. I think it'll be an exciting fight. Johnny's been hot. I mean, I would expect Ankalaev to get a takedown and grapple him. Usman and Chimaev, that's a banger.
I'm going to put my money on Usman. I don't know about
Really?
you, but
wow.
Man, he's the champ. I think he just got clipped. You're at the top for that long. It's just like what we were talking about before with Izzy. You're on the top for so long. All it takes is a loss to get right back in. It's like Rocky. You go, you lose once, you come back, and then you get the win. Like, yeah. I feel like this is going to be a similar story. Usman is just amazing. I mean, his technique, he's number one to me in my book.
It's so interesting. You said how fast it goes. I mean, Usman was the top of the game. I don't know if he was ever pound for pound number one, but definitely like right there, right? Unbeatable.
He was like, yeah, he.
He's got a wrestling background.
It's amazing.
And he uses his grappling. He does use it. I mean, he used it. I mean, he obviously in a lot of his big fights. I mean, he's been in tons of big fights. It's kind of crazy, but MMA, it's so fast. It's like the fall off is quick. And it's weird kind of thinking of that. He's now a significant underdog this weekend.
Yeah. Well, you have to fight. If you lose one time, you have to fight back up through the ranks. But Chimaev, he's crazy.
Yeah.
He is crazy. I don't know. He's like he's a mixed bag. You don't know what you're going to get from him. I could see something crazy happening. But if all goes according to plan, I still think Usman is going to take it. But I don't know. It's fighting.
One thing that I realized in making these picks with my bookie is you have to pick underdogs somewhere.
That's
the
fair.
favorites never win.
That's fair. That's
crazy.
fair.
Like, if you just go favorite, you're not winning.
It's like the Drake curse.
You almost have to look through them.
You can't bet.
Which underdog has got the best chance to win? But this is kind of wild how big of an underdog Usman is. I mean, I'm looking at the line right now. He's a plus 285. So, I mean, they got Chimaev like over a 3-1 favorite, basically. Which is kind of crazy because Chimaev really only has been tested one time, right? And that Burns fight was epic.
I think that was the first true test for Chimaev was going against Burns.
And then, I'll tell you what, this is what Usman has got to be ready for. He's got to be ready for Chimaev to come out and do the fake hand slap double A.
Yeah, double A, yeah.
I mean, it's coming.
Just blast through.
You do not touch gloves with Chimaev. No way. You can't do it.
No.
Can't do it. But,
he's psycho. Screaming at Dana.
Usman's got good grappling. I mean, he's used it, obviously. Chimaev's got good grappling. I mean, Usman was he's been in 170 for a while. Chimaev's huge, and he hasn't fought in a long time. I don't know. I think Chimaev's going to win. But it's a good opportunity for Usman because I'll tell you what, 170, obviously, it's probably a tough cut for him. And if he beats Chimaev with the way 185 is, the winner of this fight is instantly in title contention.
Yeah, because Usman has the experience, but Chimaev has the hype behind him.
In 185 is just a way that you're 1 or 2 wins from the title shot. You're 170. 155, 145, 135. Those weight classes are freaking brutal. Like, you're going to have to swing together multiple wins. Nobody in the rankings want to fight anybody below them. It's hard. Or 185 is just open. So, I mean, all those 170s cut so much weight. I mean, I would imagine that they're going to really consider going 185 right now. And it's really, obviously, right in the middle of a big turnover. 205's not a super strong division per se. So I would imagine some of those guys might try and cut down to 185. So I could see 185 like really getting changed up. Yeah. So two big fights on this card with Aliskerov. Obviously you expect him to win, and this Usman Chimaev fight. Like, who wins that fight? I don't know. I mean, it's going to throw one of them probably right. They're both have been fighting at 170, but their path is probably easier at 185, and they're both pretty big.
Yeah.
So I think I'll go Chimaev though. And then Makhachev and Volkanovski. So before I do this is something that I really don't like. I've probably done this before, so if I have and someone's called me out on it, that's fine. But when you are the champ and you're the best and you're Volkanovski, right? I hate when you take an underdog approach. I hate that. When he's like, oh, I'm short notice, all the pressure's on you. I just saw him do that. Because listen, when you're as good as him, you're a dog. You are tough. You don't he's not stepping out there thinking he's not going to win.
No,
right?
No way.
So I don't like that. I don't like when you kind of play that underdog. When you've been an underdog maybe your whole life, or you're on the come up, you don't become a great fighter with underdog mentality. You become a great fighter or wrestler because every time you step out there, you think you're going to win.
Yeah.
When you've been great or you've been to the top, you're never an underdog. You never are.
Yeah.
Moving forward, because you're always the favorite until you're not, and if you're not, as soon as you take that mentality, or I don't like it. That's one thing I didn't like.
It's weird seeing that coming from the champ,
because I know he doesn't think that way, because he's not taking that fight short notice if he's not in shape and he's not thinking about it. But I know he did come off of surgery, right? And you're supposed to be out for a while.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's kind of strange that he's taking the fight. And I've heard that Makhachev, I saw something that this is his retirement fight. Win or lose, he's done after this fight.
Wow.
I saw that on Twitter, but obviously MMA Twitter is whatever it may be. It's so many rumors, and I could be lying. It's just hard. Those guys cut so much weight. Islam cuts so much weight, and once you've done it, not everybody wants to keep doing it. Yeah. Not everybody wants to win and continue to win. Some people just want to win. Just like the idea of climbing the mountain one time is enough for people. A lot of people. All right, UFC 294. These are my picks brought to you by mybookie.ag. Use Magicman PSU. Use my code for first time deposit match. And here are my picks. I'm going with Nurmagomedov. I'm going with Aliskerov. I'm going with Ankalaev. I'm going with Chimaev. And I just said you can't go all favorites. So I'm going to go Volkanovski in the title shot. It obviously was razor thin the last time, and he arguably could have won the last fight. He doesn't take that fight short notice if he obviously doesn't think he can win. All right, so last two segments. Today we don't really have one, but we'll get into question and answer. So in the next couple, we'll have a way to submit questions. Danny will field them. We'll get into them, question and answer. And then the last segment, we're going to do a giveaway. So right now we have this bobblehead right here from the Olympics. When we get to 2,000 subscribers on YouTube, right now we're like a little over 1,000. We'll get 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. Signing this, sending it away to you guys. Hope you enjoy. So there we go. First podcast in the books.
First podcast, first giveaway. Everyone, like and subscribe.
Again, thank you livetrain.com and mybookie.ag for sponsoring this first episode. And until next time.